Hey everyone, and welcome to Sasquatch Theory. In today's interview, we have Philip from North Carolina who wanted to share his encounter that happened at Medoc Mountain. North Carolina is known for having lots of Bigfoot activity, and I believe it to be one of the hottest areas in the nation. If you have had a Bigfoot encounter in North Carolina, please reach out to me at sasquatchtheory@outlook.com. We've had a big wave of haters in the comments lately, and it's a lot of people claiming that they're subscribers and they haven't learned anything from the channel and haven't seen any evidence. Well, if you feel that way, you can go somewhere else. I hate to say it, but the Bigfoot community is its worst enemy, and there's constantly people that follow the Bigfoot trend and ridicule a bunch of people that have seen these things, or they claim that they've seen a Bigfoot themselves and ridicule others who have experienced the phenomenon, which I think it's wrong. You know, don't get in the comments and tell other people that they're lying just because you've seen a Bigfoot. That doesn't make any sense. All these comments tell me is that a person is emotionally disturbed and they like to stir trouble and they're not happy in life. That's all your comment is showing. You know, you're watching the video, so you're obviously gaining something from it. I don't really consider myself part of the Bigfoot community. I mean, what is the Bigfoot community, honestly? A collection of people that believe in Bigfoot? You're talking about all walks of life there and a giant melting pot, and to say everybody's the same because they believe in one topic is ridiculous. But yeah, that's my little rant. It's been annoying filtering through the comments, trying to find people with stories, and nobody's actually even talking about the videos. All they're doing is complaining. So yeah, that gets old, and it'd be nice to read some Bigfoot information, something new, and you know, to have people talk about the videos and share information. I just wish people would quit treating Bigfoot researchers or Bigfoot podcast as like a football team or a favorite movie or album. You know, it's like they want to like one and then hate the other and say this one's right and this one's wrong, and they're all trying to figure out which one's correct. But it's like maybe they've all had different experiences. Maybe they have different information to share. You're not going to get the same thing out of each group, and just because one group of researchers is saying one thing and then another guy's saying that there's orbs and invisibility, you know, maybe they're both right and they both had different experiences. You can't judge Bigfoot from one person to another. But anyways, let's dive into this next Bigfoot encounter from the state of North Carolina. Philip has a really neat story to share, and yeah, let's get right into it. All right, Philip, welcome to Sasquatch Theory. How are you doing today?
I'm doing quite well.
Good to hear. Philip, if you would, tell us a little bit about yourself and your Bigfoot encounter, where it took place, and where it all started, if you would.
Okay, this happened last year on Memorial Day, and that's where I actually saw the creature. This happened at Medoc Mountain State Park here in eastern North Carolina. I want to start this by saying I've been out there dozens of times, and didn't really notice anything until this happened. There actually was kind of it wasn't a sighting, but there was another encounter that I found very strange that happened before this actual event. I don't know if you want me to reference that or not. It wasn't an actual sighting. It was just something, I don't know, some people might say would equate to some kind of Bigfoot activity. But like I say, I never really saw anything. It was just something kind of weird that happened out on one of the trails. So did you want me to like go into that one too as well?
Yeah, that's fine. You can go into it.
Okay. This happened. I remember it was a fall. I'm not really sure what year it was. Might have been like 4 or 5 years ago, but I was on the bluff uh, loop trail, and I was actually coming just about finishing the trail. I was coming back up. The first thing I noticed is that the forest went quiet, and that's never happened before. Just to have everything go still and silent like that, and that just made me stop and just kind of wonder what was going on. And then I got this overwhelming feeling something is watching you. And I mean, this is a feeling I've never really had before either. I mean, sometimes you get this eerie feeling that you're being watched, which does happen quite often. Many times I've been out there, but this was a feeling inside of me that said something is watching you right now, and that made me stop and really start looking around. And I remember there was just this overwhelming smell, and it's kind of just really hard to describe. I guess like maybe like severe BO and garbage. It's just a very foul odor. And, you know, and like I say, I just never really saw anything. And that's just really never heard anything. And I just thought that was like really strange. I really picked up my pace and got out of there. I wasn't very far from, it's kind of like a picnic area there at the park, and I just really hightail it out. I didn't really run. I just really picked up my pace and got out of there, and just thought that was a really strange thing that happened. But if I could move on to the actual sighting now, um, this happened. I was actually out training, sorta, because I'm a hiker, and I've had this plan to hike the Appalachian Trail, and so I was out there, and it's a very very hot day. I remember that particularly, and there's another trail out there. It's the Summit Loop Trail, and it's the most difficult trail out there. Which you hear that and you think it's going to be like extremely steep, but I mean it's not really that bad of a trail to even the average hiker. But there's a part in this trail you kind of start off going along the stream there, and I believe that's called the Fishing Creek. And you kind of walk along that for a good ways. I mean, maybe about a mile, and then you start this long ascent up to the summit. And Medoc Mountain is not a very big mountain at all. In fact, it's not really classified as a mountain. It's kind of a high granite ridge, so it's not very tall. I think it gets to like 300, 400 feet above sea level. So it's not a very tall mountain at all, if you can even call it that. But you start this long, slow descent up to the top, the summit there, and there's like a valley when you start this ascent. There's like a valley, um, kind of towards the middle of this ascent before you get to the service road. There's kind of a service road that goes straight to the summit. I don't think it's open to the public, but I think the park rangers out there use it. So I was about halfway through there, and there's kind of a bend before you hit the valley. And of course, this is late May, so there's a lot of foliage out there. And I was coming around this bend, and I hear this very large boom. I mean, it's the largest, definitely the loudest noise I've ever heard out there. And I'm wondering what's going on. And I hear this kind of rustling of leaves right after I hear the boom. So immediately I say, "Oh, a tree fell." So what I'm thinking at the time is that there's a park ranger out there maybe doing some trail maintenance, because I've seen them out there doing that every now and then, clearing stuff out of the way for the trails. So that's what I'm expecting to see. I'm expecting to walk around this corner to where I can actually see what's going on in the valley, and That's what I'm expecting to see. I'm expecting to see a park ranger, doing some trail maintenance. So I come around the corner and immediately I don't see anything. But then I notice some movement off to my right, and I see this thing just, you know, moving very fast across the valley. And at first I thought it might be a bird because it just seemed like that because it was very stationary. Um, but when I really got to looking at it, I noticed that this is something that's moving across the valley at an incredible speed. I mean, very fast. This thing went several hundred feet within seconds. Um, I did notice a few things. Uh, I didn't see the creature fully because there's a lot of foliage and there's like shadows because it's under a forest canopy. But I did get a good look at some of its features. Um, One thing I noticed was the color of its hair, which I classify more as hair than fur. But this hair was a very very light tan color. It wasn't. I really wouldn't call it brown or blonde or white, but it was just a very very light tan color, and the hair was kind of matted down. Sort of. It wasn't like tufts that are like sticking out a whole lot, but it was very matted down. Um, I couldn't really see like a head or any kind of those features. Of course, I was looking at it from the side. I noticed that the arms were longer than a person's would be. Its hands hung down like to more along the line of where the knees would be. And like I say, I couldn't see its feet or the bottom of its legs because of the foliage. Um, and like I say, this thing moved incredibly fast. I could not believe how fast this thing was moving. So to say there was a human in a suit would be ridiculous. Because another thing is this valley, it's not flat. It's running like up the side of this valley, kind of sideways on this valley. And there are rocks everywhere out there at Medoc Mountain. So it's very uneven, rocky terrain. And to have this thing move the way it did, there's no way a human could do that. It's impossible. Um, I noticed there was no bobbing. It did not bob up and down. It was just completely straight the way this thing moved. And I'm trying to think of what else I know. It didn't move its arms like a person running would. I mean, you imagine when a person's going to run, they kind of cock their arms up to almost like a 90-degree angle and start moving them back and forth like that. This one did not run like a person would. It kind of held its arms down at a more much wider angle, and it's almost like the arms were moving as fat, like the legs would. That's almost like the way it was running, and and like I say, this thing just cleared. I mean, it was just a matter of seconds. I saw this thing. So this thing ran completely around the valley, and then it kind of went up a bluff that was nearby, and it just went out of sight. And I didn't really hear anything. And in fact, I kind of checked the area when I came down from the valley, and I didn't really see like any footprints or anything like that. And I was actually just through a weird, just way how things happen with my schedule. I was able to actually go out there a couple of days later, and I was able to kind of film where it happened, and I kind of actually I tried to find the tree that had fell because although I didn't see it, I think it was trying to push that tree down because I don't think they just fall around there. Um, I mean, that could have been what happened, but I think that's just too much of a coincidence that you have a tree fall, and then you see this creature running away from where the tree fell, across the valley like that. And so that's basically what happened. That's how it went down. And like I say, I've been out there hiking since, and I've stressed that a few times. People shouldn't be afraid to be. Well, one thing that made me not be fearful is that this thing was running not towards me. It was running away from me. So that's very comforting. The way that thing moved, if I had tried to run away, I wouldn't have made it very far. As fast as this thing moved, and how fluid it moved. I mean, that's the one thing I could not get over, even to this day. Is just how fast and how fluid this thing moved over such rocky and uneven terrain. I mean, it's just phenomenal the way this thing moved. And I think since then I've had a little guilt about it because I know there's Bigfooters out there, and I wasn't looking for Bigfoot. I'm just out there doing a hike. And I know there's Bigfooters out there. And they've wanted to see this thing, and they go out. For days on end trying to find these things, and here I am. I'm just some average schmo. Taking a hike, and I see what I saw, and that's just you know it's just the whole thing was just kind of a turning point for me. I was in shock for quite some time. I mean, I kept hiking after that. I think I stopped where I saw it across the valley where the trail was, and kind of looked a little bit. And I just kept hiking, just trying to, just kind of in shock, of you know what I saw, and just trying to make sense of it. But I know for sure, I've done fishing, and I've done hunting. I consider, I'm a self-described country boy. Um, I know you know what a bear looks like, what a wolf looks like, and you know it couldn't have been any of those, and it couldn't have been a human in the suit because there's no way a person could have moved the way this thing moved. And I guess that's pretty much what happened that day.
You heard that loud boom on the trail and some wrestling in the leaves. Do you think possibly the Sasquatch could have jumped out of the tree, landed on the ground, and took off running?
This is just a theory of mine, and I don't. It could be right, it could be wrong, but from what I've done with my own research, is that sometimes when a Sasquatch is, they can be territorial, and I think maybe this thing knew I was there. I certainly wasn't trying to sneak around or anything, and he knew I was there. And this is memorial. This is the actual Memorial Day. So Memorial Day weekend, I'm sure there were people out there hiking. That's a very, people go out there and hike quite a bit, and I'm sure with it being Memorial Day weekend, I'm sure there were a lot of people out there. So this is actually Memorial Day, and like I say, this is my own hypothesis, and I could be wrong, but I'm thinking this might have been a Sasquatch feeling territorial, and maybe it was just getting tired of seeing all these people out there, and just kind of threw that tree, kind of pushed that tree down, to kind of get me out of there. There are some things I've noticed. You don't notice them at the time, but when you think about it later, but you actually do see quite a few trees that look like they have been pushed, and kind of broken, and then fall on the trail. And which, that could be a coincidence, but these trees are sometimes they're broken in half, and then the other half is placed next to, you know the top half is placed next to the bottom half, and they both cross over the trail, because obviously this, a Sasquatch would know where the trails are. I mean, they're clearly marked, and that's just a feeling I got, is that maybe this wasn't an adult, but maybe like a juvenile, and just kind of got sick of seeing all these people out there, and heard me coming, and then pushed that tree down, as kind of a territorial thing. And then maybe when it saw me, I don't know what it is about my appearance, but maybe it just kind of got spooked and said, "I'm getting out of here." You know, like I say, what I was wearing that day, it might have looked like a uniform, and I had my hiking poles and my backpack on, so I don't know. I mean, like I say, that's just a hypothesis, and of course, I don't know if any of that's true, but that's just kind of the theory I came up with at the time.
Yeah, I've heard the thumps many times, and I've wondered if they're ground stomping with their foot, or if they're pushing over like a tree, a dead log, or possibly jumping out of a tree. It could have been any one of those situations, but you did mention that you heard like a tree coming down, or what sounded like a tree possibly went down.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Like I say, it was extremely loud, and yeah, that kind of boom. Yeah, it, it definitely was a tree coming down, and like I say, I thought it was a park ranger out there, doing some trail maintenance at the time.
Yeah. And it seems like the best time to see a Sasquatch or be around the activity is like May, June, or July, from my experience.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay. Philip, if you would describe the area that this creature was in, was it like a pine forest? Was it oaks, a swamp, or I don't know? Can you describe the features of the area?
Mostly I would kind of call it forest. There are like a few swampy areas because it's near a creek, Fishing Creek.
Mm-hmm.
But I would call the forest, and even around the state park itself, there's a lot of forest out there. This is Halifax County, um, and there's just even around the state park, just a huge forest out there.
Yeah. Have you ever told anyone about your experience out in that area? And have you ever heard any other stories from that particular spot?
I have heard that that area is considered a Bigfoot hotspot there at Medoc Mountain. Um, and I could see how a Sasquatch would probably prefer that area. One thing, weapons aren't allowed in the park. Um, and like I say, it's very heavily forested. Um,
Yeah. So it's like a wildlife management
but yeah,
area, kind
I
of.
mean, I heard there's like kind of a museum. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've heard there's like a museum of like of near that area, particularly Bigfoot sightings and stuff. Evidence has been found at the park, but I've never been there, and I don't even know if it's still operating today. So I'm not sure about that. But I have, I did put something on Facebook, and I did a video. Um, but really, nobody said anything to me about it. I told my daughter, and she's kind of a young teenager, but she said, oh, nothing, that didn't happen. You didn't see anything. I did have a younger brother, my younger older brother, just kind of say to me something about. It's like, I think he said something like, "Oh, so it had like tan, hair." I was like, "Oh yeah," but really nobody said anything to me about it. I thought, maybe people would come up to me or have questions about it. I just think, on the one hand, they know I don't lie. They know I wouldn't lie about something like that, and I just don't lie. Period. So they can't say, "Well, he's just a liar." He's just pulling our leg. And another thing is, you know, they don't believe these things are real. So I really think their average, their way of dealing with it is just to say nothing. Just to be silent about it. Um, I mean, this is really the only time I've had any kind of meaningful conversation about what happened. In fact, it was just last month. I was with a group of you know, people, kind of like me, friends, and they had mentioned Bigfoot, and it's like a group of us, maybe over a dozen, not a couple dozen, but like over a dozen, maybe about 15 or so, and they were all at this big table, and I was like kind of off a table with somebody, nearby. I wasn't, exactly at the table, but they mentioned Bigfoot, and I actually said, I said no, Bigfoot, and they were kind of, I can't remember what the exact comment or something like that, but they were talking about somebody they thought was crazy, and they said, well, this guy probably believes there's Bigfoot, and and I said, well, no, I said no, Bigfoot is real. I've seen one, and nobody said anything. They just kind of changed the subject. So that's kind of like the reaction I get from people. It's just that, you know, they know I don't lie and I wouldn't lie about it, but then they don't believe it's real either. They don't believe it's real. So that's just kind of what I get is just silence.
Yeah. Yeah, that's understandable. A lot of people just don't know how to handle that situation, or they just think you're bluffing, possibly.
Yeah, I think that would be like the average reaction, when you're faced with something like that. It's like,
Hmm.
I know this guy's not lying, but what he's saying can't be real. So I'm just going to say nothing, I'm just going to ignore it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, do you have any plans on returning back to that area and looking around more?
I don't know about the looking around, but I'm definitely planning on going back there. Hiking is a passion of mine, and I've been out there since then. In fact, I'll actually do some Facebook posts there now. If I do see a tree that's kind of broken up, or sometimes I'll notice like bark has been stripped off a tree, particularly
Hmm.
trees with like trail markers on them, and I think that's kind of interesting. Like maybe this. I think maybe these Sasquatches are territorial. Oh, something I forgot to mention is I was making the video a couple of days later. Um, I did hear a whoop out there. It was on a different trail. I was heading to the Summit Loop Trail. It used to be called the Discovery Trail, but it might be called the Fishing Creek Loop Trail now. But anyway, I'm hiking on this trail and I hear a whoop, and that's like the only time I've ever heard that. But once again, didn't see anything. I mean, it could have been an owl. I'm not saying it couldn't have been something else, but I just thought that was weird. A couple of other things I noticed is that there seemed to be a few more park rangers out there than usual, and I thought that was kind of strange. And there was a helicopter. I heard a helicopter overhead the whole time I was there, and like I say, that's another thing that I thought was kind of strange. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm going to keep hiking out there. I don't see a reason not to go. Like I say, I didn't. This is something that obviously got spooked and ran away. So there's really no reason for me to, be afraid or not to go out there, and hike. But I mean, I would be like interested in maybe doing some, I don't know, they call it Sasquatching or whatever. I might be interested in maybe doing something like that at some time. Because I do like camping is another passion of mine, and I haven't really done it in years, but that's something I want to get into. But yeah, I'm definitely going to go back out there.
Yeah. And you said there's a fresh creek that goes through the area?
Yeah, it's called Fishing Creek, and I think it's actually quite a long creek. But yeah, it goes through there, and I think there's actually kind of a stream that branches off through it that goes through the park as well.
You mentioned earlier that there was a place called Granite Ridge. Is there granite rock in that area? All right, guys. For some reason, the phone cut off, and it seemed like the signal kept getting worse and worse and just wasn't getting any better. But yeah, we called each other back, and to finish that last question, he did confirm that there is granite rock in that area, which is strange because there's granite rock found in a lot of Bigfoot active areas. I'm not sure if there's a connection there, but maybe, possibly. You would almost have to expect that these creatures would be spotted quite often, and just people don't know what to make of it or what they saw, really. And when I started the channel, I knew that I would be getting reports of people seeing possible glimpses of Sasquatch. You know, it's not always going to be this close encounter where you're standing face to face with the Sasquatch, and it's not always going to be an experience where you just hear wood knock and never saw what it was. In this case, you know, he saw something clear enough to know it wasn't a deer, you know, coyote, or any known animal of that area. So, is it Sasquatch? It's hard to say, but it's hard to rule it out and say it wasn't a Sasquatch, okay? I believe it was something strange because, you know, how often do people get rattled when they see a glimpse of a deer or, you know, a turkey running off in the woods and they weren't sure what it was? You know, do you think they're going to contact people and get on a podcast to talk about it? Probably not. If it shook him up enough to contact me and tell a story, then I believe he certainly saw something. All right, guys. Well, if you made it this far, I really appreciate everyone for watching. And if you guys haven't seen the new merchandise, scroll down below and you'll see a few shirts, and you can go to my Spreadshop website and purchase some merchandise of your own, and it would really help support the channel. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys today, and I really appreciate everyone for watching and for all the good, positive people out there who support Sasquatch Theory. Thank you and take care.